What's going on, Who Dey Nation, Bengals fans, NFL fans, all alike? Welcome to another episode of Running Through the Jungle. I'm your boy Justin Lacey, joining you with my guy Tim Lyons. How you doing, my brother?
What it do? What it do, man?
All right, so we find the ship together, man, and we're ready to take off because Tim, it is another one of those days in the off season that we didn't really want to have to discuss and talk about this, but I think we have to do it at this point. Now, before I get into today's topic of the show, how your week been so far?
Good, man. Good. I'm getting closer to starting my new job. I've been busy, kind of busy with work, and I know I'm happy that you decided to drive this bad boy so I can sit here, drink, and look pretty. I just got no thinking. It's just my head's just like all over the place right now. But it's a good week, man. As you guys see, I'm sitting outside. It's 85 degrees outside here in Washington today. So I was like, you know what? It's a great day to sit outside and do it and do this show with my boy Justin.
What is the weather traditionally like during the summer times up there in Seattle? Is it humid or is it just like what kind
It,
of weather you get on the during the summer seasons?
man, it depends if Mother Nature's on her premenstrual period or whatever the hell it is. To be honest with you, I'm just being for real because one summer it was 120 degrees outside, and in the hundreds all summer long. This summer so far, it's been in the 70s and 80s, which has been it's been really nice. But when it's in the 80s, though, it's humid. It's very humid out. But Mother Nature's treating us pretty good this year. We're not like you guys over there. 95, 100-degree weather and stuff like that. So, but yeah, it all depends on like what Mother Nature's got going on in her life. So it's just treating us good this year.
All I can say is, first of all, that was a very almost graphic display of comment regarding that. I was not expecting you to say that, but that is hilarious though, because yeah, it can be Jekyll and Hyde outside these days, and yeah,
Hmm.
I know in many parts of the country, we got to make sure we stay hydrated. I got my bottle of water right here. I'm making sure I stay hydrated for this show.
Yep,
I
I got my
haven't spent
beer
a
right
very
here, staying hydrated. See, look at that.
I thought about making me a drink for tonight's show. I really did. But, I decided to,
Mhm.
if I'm driving the show tonight, I don't want to be slurring or anything like that. I want to make sure that I come crisp, come clean, and be able to talk with a little bit more professionalism today.
Yeah,
But,
you know
you
what's
know,
funny is, and you know what the funny thing is like right before we started the show, my wife threw something at me and she threw me a bottle of Fireball. So I'm like, man, you know what? Perfect timing. Justin's driving. He's a designated driver today. I can just sit
all
here and
right.
drink and just have fun.
You know what? I'm going to challenge you because for today's topic of the show, I think you should put that fireball shot to use at some point. But I'll get into today's topic of the show. We got our boy Austin Zart in the building. Thank you so much, Austin, for joining the show every single time. You're a loyal listener, always joining in, watching us. So, guys, feel free to join us. We are always constantly streaming live, so we welcome you to join anytime. Your comments will be displayed on stage. However, you need to be appropriate. We got Christine in the building. So you got a little bit of black and yellow coming in here joining us live. Thank you so much, Christine, for joining us. I know that you bleed black and yellow with them steel curtain colors or whatnot, but we still appreciate it over here in Bengals world that you're joining us. So thank you so
We
much and
do.
welcome to the show. Be sure to like and subscribe to the Running Through the Jungle podcast. Ding that notification bell so that way you know when we get ready to go live. Okay. Anyways, let's get into the show. Like I said, we already talked about welcoming the show. So, um, Tim, last week you and Brendan and I did a show, and we were talking about how it was just a lot of just bullshit that's out there in this
Yeah.
media stratosphere. Everybody's throwing these insane takes. People are creating these lists, like the top 10 QB list, the top 10 wide receivers list and stuff, the best team rankings, who's overrated, who's underrated. And it's so much going on of that that we collectively decided we need to tune all of that noise out. But today, I think it is warranted that we talk about it. So, the top 10 quarterback list that Jeremy Fowler had shared and wrote an article via ESPN, and
Mhm.
I'll share the list here momentarily. But this list is a little bit different. Okay. It's not your the bozos online or these media. I was going to say a-holes, but these media buttholes on the national airwaves spewing this garbage in this takes. This is a curated top 10 list that was presented by Jeremy Fowler, the senior analyst for ESPN. However, this has been developed through coaches, scouts, executives all throughout the NFL. So this
Mhm.
list tends to get a little bit more higher precedent, other than just your normal Joe Schmo or your Twitter fingers bozo behind a keyboard coming up with their own takes or whatnot.
Right.
Now, no disrespect to anybody else, because we have a ton of people in the NFL stratosphere, or that are just casual fans that are very analytical and can come up with a great top 10 list. But you know what? Let's go ahead and dive right into it. So I'm gonna share my screen here for you, and then we're gonna talk about the list. Because I want from you, Tim, is that I want your overall reaction to the list. Okay. So for
Mhm.
those that are joining us live here, you guys are going to see my screen that we're going to just talk about a list. And I just pulled this up courtesy of ESPN.com. So we got Josh Allen at number one. We got Patrick Mahomes at number two. Then we got Matthew Stafford at number three. Our wonderful Bengal quarterback Joe Burrow lands at number four on this list. Lamar Jackson rounds out the top five, sitting at five.
Mhm.
Then we go into having Dak Prescott at number six, Justin Herbert at seven, Drake May at eight. You got Jared Goff at number nine, and Caleb Williams rounding out the top 10 at number 10. Now, there is honorable mentions in here that didn't obviously make the top 10 list, but it was worth mentioning. We have Sam Darnold, who was Super Bowl champion, Jaden
Right.
Daniels, Jordan Love, Brock Purdy, Baker Mayfield, Trevor Lawrence is also in the honorable mentions category as well too. But you know what? That is the top 10 list that Jeremy Fowler has presented via ESPN.com. So, Tim, we're going to talk about Joe Burrow. Obviously, it's the Bengals show. We will be remiss and it will be an insult if we didn't talk about him.
Right.
But I want you to give me your overall thoughts on the top 10 list.
Yeah, you look at the list and you got some great quarterbacks on there. You got some other ones where I'm going, nah, I don't know. When I'm talking about saying I don't know, I'm talking about Justin Herbert, his career, and Dak Prescott with his career. Dak Prescott's put out some MVP numbers at one time, but he's kind of hasn't really gotten those playoff wins. Justin Herbert can't win a playoff game to save his life. But then you got Drake May in there at the top 10, who, took his team to the Super Bowl. You got Caleb Williams, who is at number 10. Um, it's a good list. It's something that you can look at, and if you're a fantasy football kind of, type of guy like I am, I'm going to look at those lists and kind of see, what they say about them. Patrick Mahomes being that, up there at number two, three-time Super Bowl, winner. I can see that, but does he take a step back this year? We can also look at Joe Burrow, and we'll talk about him later. I'm not going to talk about that right now, but we know about Joe Burrow. We know about Lamar Jackson. Um, they named the top players in the league. You got the MVP sitting there at number three. You got Sam Darnold, that's Super Bowl champion just this year, not even on the top 10, just an honorable mention. So it's a good list. It is. It's a good list. It's a logical, list. Like for me, as when it goes through 1 through 10, I wouldn't rank them that way, but it is a logical top 10 list.
For me, I understand where you're coming from. And to a large part of an extent, I do agree with where you're coming from.
Mm-hmm.
I think they almost got it right, but I still feel like that there are just some hidden biasness within the top 10 list that it's like, okay, is it really about what they did last year in 2025, or is it about you just
Right.
like them because they've been like one of your favorites since they've been
Mm-hmm.
drafted, or such and such kind of thing? You're based off of circumstances and situations. Again, I respect the list because this is a list that's voted upon largely by the coaches, executives, and the front office members and stuff like that, scouts.
Right.
I do respect the list, and this is why we're talking about it. Let me ask you a question. Let's just stick. Let me kind of get like separate the reaction. What stood out to you about the top five quarterback ranking? That's not Joe Burrow right now. Like, what stood out to you about the top five?
Well, you got the best 5 quarterbacks in the league. Those are the best 5 right now. Those are honestly the best 5. Like I said, the whole Mahomes thing, he had an off year last year, but it's Mahomes. Mahomes is Mahomes. It's like not putting Tom Brady when he was in the league, but he had a bad season and not putting him in the top 5. That's just ridiculous. But you have Josh Allen who can do wonderful and great things with the trash cans he throws to. Look what he's done. Look what he's done over the last 3 years. Patrick Mahomes, Super Bowl winner. I can go on. Number 3, Matt Stafford. Stafford goes from the Detroit Lions to the Rams, wins the Super Bowl, and then wins the MVP last year by a play. He loses, going to another Super Bowl just by one play. Then you got Joe Burrow and you got Lamar Jackson. It's a great list. I agree with the top 5 110%. I think it's accurate. But like you said, are they going off of what they did last year or what they did in their career to this year? Now, I'm going to ask you a question, Justin,
Go for
because
it.
if it's the fact of what they've done last year and what they've done in their career, they gave no cookies, no flowers to Sam Darnold. Look what Sam Darnold did when he was with the Minnesota Vikings the year before he came to the Seahawks. Look what he
Mm-hmm.
did that year. He
Mm-hmm.
was like what 14 game winner, I think he was. 13
14
game
and
winner,
3.
whatever. Yeah, 14 game winner. And then he goes to another team, takes them to the Super Bowl and wins the Super Bowl, and he's not even in the top 10. See, that's where my reaction is going, how in the hell is Justin Herbert in there? That's one of
We'll
my
get
my
that. Don't jump ahead of me, bro, because
yeah,
I said the
go ahead.
top five.
Yeah,
Because
go ahead.
to your point, the 6 through 10, that's the one that's getting the more reaction. The top five,
Yeah,
and I'll give my thoughts on it real quick here, and then we can go into it. The top five, I don't have a problem with the top five. I think my issue with the top five is I am just not a big fan of how they ranked Patrick Mahomes when he had a complete down year. He's shown a little bit of
right.
signs of decline for the last few years. Even the last
Yeah,
time that they won the Super Bowl in 2023, that wasn't really a great Chiefs team. Now,
right.
he did a lot of work to carry the team through the playoffs, and we
Hmm.
respect him for that. But I just think that his overall body of work in his career has landed him in that spot at number 2. It's really interesting that for the top 5 that it was separated in terms of tiers. And Donald, I'm gonna get to your comment in a second. We're not gonna talk
Yeah, that
about your
mother.
boy right now because again, so we'll get to there in a second. However, here's my thoughts about the top 5 regarding that. Josh
Yeah,
Allen being ranked number 1, I do not have a problem with. I think that over the last 2 seasons, Josh Allen has shown that he can carry the team on his back with having deficiencies of a little bit of weapons around him. He does
right.
have a solid offensive line. He has a great running game with James Cook, but Josh Allen is also a workhorse in a rushing quarterback himself. He has a
Yep.
Cannon Bernard, supremely talented. He was playing some on God tier level football last year. It's just that they just didn't win a division because you can make an
Hmm.
argument had the Bills would have pulled off another division title last year, he probably would have won MVP over Matt Stafford. But it didn't
Yeah,
happen. It is what it is. Stafford deserved it. I also have no problem with Stafford being ranked in the top 5 because I do believe he is a top 5 quarterback. Personally, I would put him at 5, and I will put Lamar, Joe, Josh, and Patrick. No matter how you rank them, they're the top 4. They've been the core for all this time.
yeah,
But I've said it last week, and I'm gonna say it again by this week about Matt Stafford. I think right now is an overcorrection happening in the landscape of his career. Whereas Matt Stafford was never viewed as an unquestioned top 5 quarterback in the NFL ever until just recently. He
yeah,
had the MVP season, but I think that his MVP season is not better than Patrick Mahomes' 2 MVP seasons. It's not better than Lamar Jackson's first MVP season in 2019. Josh Allen had to do more around him with less for his 2024 MVP campaign. In the
Yeah,
years when Joe Burrow was a finalist for his MVPs, I don't think Matt Stafford was better than Burrow at playing his ball. And Burrow's best ball is still ahead of him, of course. But
right.
I respect the living hell out of Matt Stafford. I think that he is now officially on track to being a Pro Football Hall of Fame with that MVP
Definitely.
award. But it also came, I believe, in a year where just not enough people were available. Okay. But the top five list is what it is. But now here's 6 through 10. So we've already mentioned you got Dak Prescott at number 6, Justin Herbert at 7, got Drake May at number 8, Jared Goff at 9, and you got Caleb Williams at 10 to round out the top 10.
Hmm.
I'm gonna toss it back to you. Give me your immediate reaction of what stands out. You already gave me your Sam Darnold rant, so you ain't got to go there right now. But give me your immediate reaction of what stood out from 6 through 10.
It's really becomes between Justin Herbert and Jared Goff. Honestly, Jared Goff. Don't get me wrong; he plays great football. He's a good quarterback. They just didn't have a very good year last year. The chips didn't fall where they needed them to land last year. But Jared Goff is still a baller. I think he should have been brought up on the list, and I still believe, I don't care what anybody says, Justin Herbert should have been kicked off the list, and Sam Darnold should have been put on there. I give it. Drake May. Drake May. He came out there his sophomore season with a the first year Patriots coach Mike Vrabel, not first year NFL coach, but first year Mike Vrabel as head coach, and he did amazing things with that team with Drake May, and Drake May deserved to be up on that list. And Caleb Williams, I'm not a big Caleb Williams fan, as you guys all know, but Ben McDonald did wonders with that team. Caleb Williams had a lot of different offensive coordinators and all this stuff going on when he was first drafted, and I thought he was just going to be a big old flop. But last year he proved it wrong. Or this year he really needs to prove it that he is a number one quarter. That he is a number one quarterback, and he can go out there and toss the ball around. But like that's my biggest thing and even when it comes to Dak Prescott, we know what Dak Prescott can do. We've seen him have MVP seasons. Um, but when it comes to the big game, he can't get it done. Just like Herbert, when it comes to the big game, he can't get it done. That's what the concern is you can't get it done. I don't care what Donald's saying over here about Burrow, that Herbert should be over the list than Burrow. Man, go piss off somewhere. You just drinking that Thunderbird or whatever in the hell you're drinking. Get out of here. You know what? If you look at their freaking playoff records compared to each other, Joe Burrow is still superior, even though Burrow has missed a lot of time. But I'm going to get into that in a little bit. But that's my opinion on the bottom five, on the 6 through 10. But there should have been some adjustments made to that. They gave no, and I'm sorry that I'm saying this again, but they gave no cookies, no flowers to Sam Darnold, man. Sam Darnold, and I'm gonna tell you this right now: if Sam Darnold goes out there and takes them to a divisional playoff game or even the Super Bowl again, he better be on this top 10 list next year.
I think the thing is the argument with Sam Darnold of why he's not there yet. This, I believe he did deserve to be an honorable mention. There is an argument that you can slot him in there at 10 or maybe even 9. But
I wouldn't be mad at that.
I get it. I don't want to say I wouldn't be mad at that either. It's one of those things where it's like the guys that they have here at 9 and 10, I'm like, oh, well, I'm not upset about it either, but we're in a space right now in NFL quarterback land to where you have a lot of top 10 caliber talent that can be in this mix, but they're just not there yet. And going to my reaction of 6 through 10, I think it was a complete total surprise that Dak Prescott was first out of the gate at number 6, because I still feel like that I like Dak Prescott. I think he is a top 10 quarterback, maybe at maybe number 9 or 10 to me, or even 8. I wouldn't be happy. I wouldn't be upset if it was that. But 6, literally right there, when we've seen basically his overall body of work, that man, at this point, you are riding the coattails of what you did your first few years in the league at this point.
Yeah.
And it's just like you said, the results haven't really been there with postseason success. his numbers have been somewhat good, but I also think that his circumstances around him has evolved over the years to where they've lost so much. They just traded away Micah Parsons, and he had to basically go out there and deal with a terrible defense too. They did also make trades for Quinnen Williams as well during midseason during last year. So they're obviously built to be a little bit better moving forward. But Dak Prescott had to deal with and overcome a lot of stuff too. So I don't
That's
have a
true.
problem with him being in the top 10, but it was a surprise to me seeing him at number 6 that high. And to your
Yeah.
point about Justin Herbert, I'm not even going to waste my effort and energy because Herbert hasn't just demonstrated the results. You're still basically, and the NFL just tells you they're still basically crowning his overall physical abilities, and it's really hasn't really shown up yet in dire clutch situations. However, I will say he had a really good season last year, but I thought when after week 1 where he finally delivered against Kansas City, I was thinking that, okay, maybe this Chargers team is a little bit different, but also then more of the same started developing. And it was more of, okay, well, they're good, but are they Super Bowl caliber good? No, it's
Right.
not. And a large part is that Herbert hasn't delivered in those facets, in those moments. So that's why I'm just flabbergasted that the NFL continues to rank him this
There-
high. I think that
yeah.
he's top 5 caliber, but 7, whatever, it is what it is. I do believe he does to be in the top 10. But to your boy Donalo talking about comparing him Herbert versus Burrow, stop that. We stopped that a long time ago. He ain't on that stratosphere. Okay.
Yeah.
Because
I
in a
think that.
situation, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, well, I think the problem is that everybody's hanging their hats on his first 3 years. That's what everybody's hanging their hat on. His first 3 years, because he did have a 5,000-yard season his second year. And I get it, but he still had only 3,700 yards this year, 26 touchdowns, and 13 interceptions. So
That's not good. That's
not good.
not elite status. But
That's
sorry.
a 500 touchdown to interception ratio.
Yeah, pretty
Come on.
much. Pretty much. And like I said, because I do have a little bit of gripe as well with the bottom 10, because I feel like what the league is doing with Herbert, they really should. They really now talk about disrespect with Sam Darnold. What you said, dude. I'm looking at Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence had a great year last year. Like
He
that
did.
Jags team was absolutely good, and he bounced back strong. And obviously, they're giving more credit to Liam Cohen, the Jags' new head coach, for that.
Right.
But I think that he deserves a credit for bouncing back and making the plays to do it. He won his division. That was
Yeah.
tough, and he had a tough Houston defense that he made look mundane last year at times. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that they're also forgetting that part that, hey, Trevor Lawrence, y'all used to crown this dude. Now y'all not anymore. It's almost like they're fully out on him. But nonetheless, and then I will say this because I see a comment in the chat that's referencing Caleb Williams. I think Caleb Williams has superstar capability in the future, but I just don't think it's there now. I think what landed him on this top 10 list is because of their fourth quarter numbers, of what they
Mm-hmm.
did in the fourth quarter last year
Yeah.
against bad defenses like the Bengals when they played against the Bengals and Joe Flacco,
Packers.
against just purely putrid luck with just throwing out of these big time plays. He has the least completion percentage on this list. Like his completion percentage is less than 60%, if I'm not mistaken. But nonetheless, like they landed him on this list is large part because of what you said about Ben Johnson turning that team around as a head coach, but also too his spectacular play in the fourth quarter when you needed to make a big massive play. Caleb Williams delivered. He also beat the Green Bay Packers in the playoffs, which is why I believe they put him over this spot over Jordan Love because he's on the honorable mention list. But yeah, there's a lot of argument to kind of go inside with this top 10 list, and we can honestly go throughout the whole show about this whole thing, my man. So, any quick thoughts before we move on?
No. I think that we covered the bases when it came to the top 10. The top 10 list, the top 5, and the top and the bottom 5. I guess a lot of people need to put their fandom aside and really look at the stats. Really look at the stats. Look at their win-loss records. That kind of stuff. He's over here putting stats up, but Joe Burrow missed a lot of time. So you're comparing apples to oranges, Donald. I don't care what you say, because if Joe Burrow played as many games as Herbert did, I guarantee you, Joe's number
If
one.
Joe Burrow would have, if Joe Burrow would have
He would
had
have
only
toasted
just
his ass.
if Joe Burrow would have played a lot more football in these last couple of years, with 2023 more specifically, and obviously this past season in 2025, dude, it wouldn't be a question. They wouldn't be on these 3-game skid of missing the playoffs. I mean, we obviously know that's why we left Burrow out of this part of the conversation,
Right.
because that's an obvious talking point. But I think I'll take it a different level. I think it's a little bit more than just stats. I think it's a little bit more than just
It's
what they
how
did
Joe
last year.
Burrow is.
I think that ultimately this list was created, and it's really telling you that if GMs, coaches, polls, whatever, if they were taking quarterbacks in the draft like you had your options, I believe that they would rank them in some such and such in this kind of order. For Herbert, he's the toolsy guy. He has the quarterback build, the strong arm. And there's a lot of coaches and talents that think that that is still what can win at a high level in the NFL. That's why he continuously to be on these lists, even though the results haven't been there in the end. But it still shows that that is still very valued. It's why Josh Allen is ranked number one, even though the results haven't really been there when it came to crunch time in the playoffs. I can't get that playoff game out of my head against the Broncos about basically him throwing it away. And I
Yeah.
didn't even mention Bo Nix. Bo Nix should be an honorable mention on this list as well, too. But nonetheless, I'm not going to get into any more of that part. But bottom line is, it is a great conversation. It's why we don't really get into these things as often. But I also think that I respect why everybody did the way that they did. Okay.
Mm.
But here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a quick break. We're almost about halfway through the show, as far as like half hour into the show. We still got to talk about Joe Burrow. We got to talk about Shiesty and his ranking on this list. But we're not going to just talk about his ranking. When we get back, we're going to talk about what it is that we see in his game and what does he need to do to be able to ascend into number one in the future. We'll be right back. All right, we are back. I hope you guys have been enjoying yourself through this fun football conversation. If you have been enjoying any kind of podcasting, Bengals media space, or just let alone any NFL football media landscape, this top 10 list has just sparked a global reaction like wildfire. You got national pundits giving their takes on it. You got local fans in media spaces giving their takes on it. Twitter fingers and Twitter thumbs just trying to do whatever they possibly can to do some anger driven data stat numbers and stat watching to be able to prove why their guy should be ranked higher, why this guy should be ranked lower. Overall, I'll come back and just think of this. I am happy to have Joe Burrow as my quarterback, and I don't care how you rank this list. I ain't trading him for anybody on this list, not a single one. So
Mm-hmm.
that is a perfect transition to talk about Joe Burrow and his ranking on his list. Now, he's ranked number 4, right behind Matthew Stafford. It's weird because Jeremy Fowler has this tier. He has Josh Allen number 1, Patrick Mahomes number 2. That's a tier. Then Matthew Stafford is in a tier by himself at number 3. And then the next tier is Burrow over Lamar at 4 and 5. So
Mm-hmm.
that tells me something a little bit. That tells me that even though Burrow and Lamar both missed times, that the league and executives and coaches, they still value Burrow's overall game. And honestly, that they still respect him. That he only played what? How many games? 6, 7, 8, whatever. Like he didn't even
8.
play that many games last year. But yet when he was on the field, you can see the surgical proudness in this game. You can see that he is still a force. That defense is still got to figure out a way to stop. We saw that Thanksgiving night, the first game that he came back on the road at Baltimore Thursday night football in Baltimore again for the 4th straight year in a row, and he lit him up. So
Mm-hmm.
it was just deja vu for him, like another day at the office. And he's coming in here with a metal plate in his foot or whatever in his shoe and can hardly be demonstrate mobility. And so I think that was a lot of argument to why he's still ranked in the top 4 or the top 5 in this instance as well. Why he's still ranked in the core 4 and in the top 4 in the NFL. But Tim, I want to ask you, because there's a lot of chatter when you rank Burrow, Mahomes, Allen, and Lamar. I'm gonna stick with those 4.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of guys out of those 4 would tend to put Burrow on the bottom when you think about the overall conversation of the whether if it's media, fans, whatever. the overall conversation of ranking these quarterbacks, they tend to put Burrow literally at 4. Now, Matt Stafford is obviously in that mix right now, but sticking
Right.
to the young core 4 because they're the current, they're the future. Matt Stafford, we know what he is now. He's past prime, all that stuff. But why do you feel like that they do that to him? And do you believe that there's something? What does he need to prove to be able to be looked at as the unquestioned best quarterback in the NFL?
Yeah. I've thought about this over the last couple weeks. Actually, I made some comments too. If you guys follow me, on other podcasts and everything, we know that I watch. But the biggest thing with Joe Burrow is his health. Like I think that's the number one thing. If Joe Burrow can stay healthy for consistent, and not have these freak accidents or whatever, because of course, every fan or every Bengals hater or new Bengals fan blame it on the offensive line. I'm so tired of hearing that bullshit of offensive line, offensive line. I'm so tired of that. But I'm going to say the very first reason is Joe Burrow staying healthy for a consistent amount of seasons. We really need to see that happen. If it does not happen, and I've already made this comment before, and I know people thought I was crazy, but if Joe Burrow doesn't stay healthy this year, I say he falls out of the top 5. I
Mm-hmm.
really feel that way. His health has been a major concern. I know there's freak accidents that happen. His appendix was not, something that his body just said, nope, not today. We don't need your appendix. Let's get this bad boy out. He had a calf injury. He had his leg torn off his first season, which was an offensive line issue. He fell wrong and broke his wrist or whatever the hell it was. And then his turf toe issue, that wasn't an offensive line issue. I'm just setting the facts straight here. That wasn't an offensive line issue. That was Joe just got a freaking turf toe. But his health is the number one way for him to stay up in that top 5. But the next one is I think he really needs to win MVP. And he really needs to win that MVP and prove to people, hey, you know what? I am top 3, top 5, whatever the hell. Wherever you want to put Joe Burrow. It's just funny is they put Joe Burrow in this top 5 category, or even in some conversations, it's top 3 category. The
Mm-hmm.
top 3 category. They put him in this conversation because it's Joe freaking Burrow. Joe Burrow has this Tom Brady esque, mentality. He's a cold killer. He don't care. He's business. He's on the field. He makes quick throws, quick reads. He's every franchise's dream when it comes to a quarterback. He really is. As long as you give Joe Burrow, 2.2, 2.3 seconds to throw the football and somebody's open, Joe Burrow's making that pass. So,
Yeah.
I think, Joe Burrow winning that MVP will really seal the deal of, him being maybe number 1 next year. Um, you know, Josh Allen, he does, he puts that Superman cape on and he takes over, with his legs, with his arm. He's a linebacker back there playing quarterback. I don't care what anybody says. That dude's a linebacker playing quarterback. And just Joe Burrow just really needs to take over the game next year, or this year, to really move up into the echelon of I'm a number 1 quarterback. I'm an MVP quarterback. Or even for us, our sakes, because we haven't seen it yet. Super Bowl MVP Joe Burrow. That would sweeten the deal even more.
It's a lot there. You did bring up one thing, and I do agree. Out of all the top 5 quarterbacks, Joe Burrow is the only one that hasn't notched an MVP under his belt, at least not yet. That I'm sure that will come at some point in his career, but it hasn't came yet. I'm going to answer the question as far as like, why do they feel like that out of the core 4 that many people, and I'm not saying that he's always ranked in the bottom. There are a lot of people. In fact, this list as well, he actually received number 1 quarterback caliber votes. But I also think that it just centers back around to health being a factor. Availability is your
Yep.
best availability. And that's the thing. Joe Burrow just hasn't been available. Let's just call a spade a spade. He's been injured in 2 out of the last 3 years, albeit good amount of it's not his fault, but things happen, freak accidents and whatnot. But it's just that's just been the MO. You coupled that with on the fact of the matter is that the Bengals haven't missed a hasn't made the postseason in the 3 years, large part because 2 of those years he's been hurt. And then in 2024, the defense was just putridly bad, and just like in 2025. However, I just feel like bottom line is Burrow just got to be available. And I think the questions about him being injury prone, because you're not seeing these a lot of conversations with Lamar. And Lamar had a bad season, a worse season with a lot more hype coming into last year because that
Yeah.
team was fully loaded. He came off of another MVP caliber season in 2024, and they thought in 2025 made these moves and stuff, signed Jair Alexander and bringing him in, all these other guys. They had a great draft. Malachi Starks in the first round, Mike Green second round. Boy, they had the Ravens listed as the number one team, the best team in football. Then he gets hurt and he missed a lot of games. But when he came back, he didn't come back quite as good. He had a
Right.
good,
Right.
okay games here and there, but like he didn't come back quite as good. You can tell something was still bothering him, and his numbers suffered. So I think that's why that Joe Burrow got the edge over Lamar in that factor, in spite of Lamar having 2 MVPs under his belt and Joe having none yet. But I also believe that Joe Burrow literally carrying his team to the Super Bowl is different than Drake May in that conversation. Joe
Mhm.
Burrow literally carried his team into the Super Bowl going through a tougher road than Drake May did. Drake May, he did not go through the road that Joe Burrow did. Joe Burrow had to go on the road every single time, didn't have a single home game until the wild card round. And then in the Super Bowl, you still had the opportunity to win it. People saying that, oh, well, that was one good year. Dude, no, he's been balling like that. You
Look
just
at the next year.
and then the following year, 2022 was even better than 2021. He was an
Mhm.
MVP finalist that year too. It was just
Yep.
unfortunate that the Chiefs, Mahomes had a better record. He had a little bit better passing numbers. That's why he ended up getting it. But Burrow was much more valuable to his team in those 2 years. And even though Aaron Rodgers won it in 2021, Joe Burrow, you can make an argument that he should have won it then too, because he
Yep.
was just that much more valuable. It's weird how they do the voting for the MVP award. That's why I don't pay too much attention to it.
Yeah.
But
It's a popularity contest.
it truly is. But what does Joe Burrow need to do to be number one? I'll get into that. I believe you are exactly right, Tim. I do believe that he needs to get some sort of championship hardware under his belt at some point. We know Josh Allen, the pressure's on him to win the Super Bowl. He already got
Yeah.
the MVP. He don't need to worry about that. Lamar Jackson, he got 2. They can't get to the Super Bowl. That's their pressure. Joe Burrow already shown that he can do that, but you got to go out there and win one. Super Bowl MVP and all that stuff, I would love to see that. But I'm not going to put that much pressure on this Bengals team, even though I believe that they
Right.
can do it to win to Super Bowl, because it's not an easy thing to do, as we already know. But I do believe this is the perfect opportunity to where how everything is laid out for him this year, Joe Burrow can have the greatest season of his career up to this point, to where he will be a hands down MVP. I made the bold prediction last week, and I'll say it on this show. I think that Joe Burrow will have one of the greatest quarterback seasons of all time. Like when you think about top 10 quarterback single seasons, you think of 2010, or I'm sorry, 2013 Peyton Manning, 2007 Tom Brady, 2000 or 1999 Kurt Warner,
Mhm.
stuff like that. 1994 Steve Young, John Elway, Dan Marino in 84. I think by the time we get to this year, I believe that Joe Burrow will be a part of that discussion once it's all said and done. And I ain't even mentioned like 2011 Aaron Rodgers and 2009 Drew Brees and stuff like that. Like those passing seasons is in the history books of ancient seasons. Like they're amazing. I think
Right.
Burrow, because I believe that while everybody's talking about these athletic abilities of Mahomes, Allen, Lamar, Joe Burrow has athletic ability, but it's not on the level of those 3 guys. But
Right.
he has the best cerebral pocket presence, pocket playing quarterback that the league still values highly. It's why they say to you, Joe Burrow's probably the best overall quarterback in the NFL from a quarterbacking perspective, not from just making athletics and doing all this scrambling and all that stuff. We know that that's a part of the game now, where the game is moved and evolved to. But Joe Burrow can still beat you from the pocket like the old school guys can, on top of
Mhm.
still being a little bit more wiggle in this game as well. But like, to get to number one, I just believe that number one, availability. Of course, you got to be healthy, dog. And it ain't just this year. It's got to be moving forward in your career. We
Mhm.
can't keep seeing these season-ending injuries in week 5, and now we just like, oh, here we go again. This can't happen moving forward. Now, it's football is not perfect. It is a brutal contact sport. Some
Yep.
ailments are going to happen here and there, but you got to be mainly available. And when you are available, you have to be productive. And I also will bring up one last other thought before I toss it back to you, Tim. I need to see the Bengals offense because as much as chagrin we've been talking about this Bengals defense the last 2 years, this offense is not perfect. Okay.
Right.
There are
Right.
times where this offense spins their tires when it comes to late in the game. You've seen the graphics in the pictures, Tim, when they like to say it's 2 minutes left. You got like 9 Hall of Fame quarterbacks or whatever with 2 minutes to go. Which one are you taking? And it's guys like John Elway, Joe Montana, Dan Marino, Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, and even Patrick
Yep.
Mahomes. He's made it in those. Joe
Ben
Burrow's never listed in
Roethlisberger.
there.
Right.
Yeah, Ben Roethlisberger. He's in those kind of things. Like Joe Burrow's never mentioned in that, like in those kind of
Right.
graphics. It's because I don't think that we've seen it on a grander scale yet to where they can
No.
have those clutch fourth quarter winning touchdowns. Like the game against Denver in 2024, that was awesome. But like we don't see it often. And
Right.
it's just too much that like we gotta see more. We know he has it in him to do it as fans if you've watched it. But the Stone Cold Killer, the ice in his veins, the assassin, he does it in a different way than just the traditional. You're down 5 in the fourth quarter with 2 minutes to go. You need a touchdown to win the game. Can you do it? We believe he can do it. He has the mentality and the makeup to do it, but we haven't seen enough of it yet.
Right.
I think that's also part of it too. We need to see a little bit more of that because this schedule is tough. It will be he will be battle tested, and he's already been there. But that's a part of the repertoire of what makes an elite quarterback an elite quarterback. If that
Yeah.
if but do you agree with that?
Oh, 100%. We do need to see him. We need to see him in those situations to where he can drive us down the field and score a touchdown or get us in field goal position to win the game. Um, you know, Unfortunately for Joe, Joe likes to play from, with a lead and, coming out there
Mhm.
scoring 30 points and destroying the team. And, you know, it's like it's a, you know, it's kind of a tricky thing when it comes to Joe. Joe's either out there, beating hell out of somebody, or our defense in the past has given up touchdowns and we're losing the game, and there's no coming back from it. But
Yeah.
I would definitely like as a fan wise, I can see Joe leading us to cut to a comeback win. Down by 3 points. He marches us down the field for a touchdown and we win the game. I can definitely see Joe doing it, but I need to see it. That's the thing is
Yeah.
I
We
need to
need the
honestly
proof.
see it. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, he's to be fair, he has shown the makeup to do it. Think back to his rookie year, very first game of the season. He throws the touchdown game-winning pass to AJ Green in the
Yeah.
end zone, but overzealous pass interference wipes it away, and they had to
Yep.
settle for a Randy Bullock field goal, which he missed, by the way, and
Yep.
grabbed the wrong calf. It's stuff like that. And then in 2022, week 1 against the Steelers, that was the appendectomy that he was coming fresh off of.
Oh, yeah.
He throws the game-winning touchdown in the end zone in Jamar Chase, and we believe that was literally the win the game. But
Mhm.
the extra point gets blocked with 2 seconds left to go in the game, and unfortunately, we had to go see them go to overtime in that. And then what happened in overtime? Joe Burrow marches him down the field to get him into field goal range for Evan McPherson to give the go away kick, and he doinks it and misses. So it's
Mhm.
stuff like that that the opportunities he's been making the plays there, but the team has just let him down more times than not in those moments. If that makes sense,
Yeah.
I think that Joe Burrow has shown it in a different way. Like in 2022, same year against Kansas City. We always talk about the Jamar Chase 3 touchdown game and how they just lit the world on fire. But in
Mhm.
the 2022 game, honestly, that was my favorite game against the Chiefs for the Bengals because that game told me that I feel like they were damn near head shoulders above better than Kansas City. They controlled that game from start to finish. And when it came down to like a minute and some change left to go in the fourth quarter, facing the 3rd and 11, Joe Burrow with ice in his veins stood in the pocket and just fired a laser for 14 yards to T. Higgins. That won the
Mhm.
game. It's stuff like that. Joe Burrow will do stuff like that very
Yeah.
often to seal the deal in the game, whereas other teams will get cold feet and they will try to run the ball to try to churn out the clock and then force them to use a timeout and then punt the ball back. Joe Burrow, like, I know what they think that we need to do, but I'm going to put this ball in. I'm going to put the team on my back and throw the game-winning touchdown. There's been many instances more like that we've seen from Joe than the
Right.
instances that we're talking about before. And we talk about it once upon a time ago with the 49ers game, the first time against the 2021 49er game. Joe Burrow brings them back from the dead and had
Oh
the
yeah.
game won in overtime. But the problem was that offensive line breaks down, gets a sack, settle for a field goal. Defense gives up the go-ahead touchdown, and then you lose. So unfortunately, stuff like that happens to Joe. But I believe we will see more of that as his career starts to continue to develop. I think that's just part of the repertoire. It's a popular conversation in the media landscape. I don't worry so much about it. I just need to see the proof in the pudding now. Like you said, I just need to see a little bit more proof
Yeah.
during that final 2-minute stretch where we know he has the capability to do it. But
Yep.
that's Joe Burrow, man. At the end of the day, I feel like that you and I don't have a problem with where he's ranked right now on this list. It is what it is. It comes out every year. It's for show. But nonetheless, man, we just know that the league still respects Joe Burrow and that they still view him as truly an unquestioned top 5 quarterback. But to your point, and I will echo this as well too, if this doesn't work out this year, whatever that may be, do not be surprised if the media starts to look at Joe Burrow differently and start ascending guys like Drake May, Caleb Williams above him in these rankings in the future.
Yep.
Because you got to be, because at the end of the day, while we love Joe Shiesty, he has to deliver the results too. I'm
Mm-hmm.
being fair, just like I talked about with Herbert and all the other guys and stuff. It ain't going to make you feel good if Herbert and Dak is ranked above Joe Burrow, and if we don't have this workout at some point. The league has
Right.
given you fair chances. Like these guys in the media, they still think highly of Joe. That should be
Mm-hmm.
okay. That's fine. Just got to deliver the results. All right.
Amen.
Tim, that was a lot there, man. I think we had a fun time. But you know what? I think I'm done talking about the top 10 quarterback list now. How you feeling?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. I'm over here, just chilling. It's been a great show. For us to just be able to talk about and break down the top 10 list, and then also give
Yeah.
our thoughts about Joe Burrow and what we think that needs to happen. And everybody thinks that we're just a bunch of biased Bengals fans, but believe it or not, we really look at the good, the bad, and the ugly. I'm not going to be sitting there going, "Oh, Joe Burrow's number one" just because I'm a fan. Yeah, I'm a fan, but I know what needs to, in reality, I know what needs to happen in order for him to be great. So,
Mm-hmm.
it was a great conversation. And, as always, you and I, we do our thing and we do it well.
Yeah, for sure, man. Now, any final thoughts that you want to give to the people before we get up on out of here?
Just like I always say, thank you guys for watching, for listening. Make sure you like, you subscribe, you share with your friends, you share with your neighbors, girlfriends, boyfriends, cousin down the street, whatever the hell it is, share us. We're trying to grow here. We're kind of been at stalemate for the last, and I know it's the off season, and who wants to sit here and listen to the Cincinnati Bengals talk about the Cincinnati Bengals all the time? So, we've been trying to bring in some NFL content and also talk about the Bengals, but make sure you share us with your friends. I can't just say that enough. But other than that, Who Day, Justin, I hope you have a great week. Chat and everybody who's watching, who's listening on Spotify and all your podcast platforms. Thank you guys again for watching. I hope you guys have a great rest of your week. Who Day.
And on that note, I really do also appreciate you guys for tuning in on us on another Wednesday night. It's dead during the offseason. We're grasping at straw. This was one of those cherry-picked conversations during the offseason to where it sparked a lot of reaction. And we're no different. We're talking about it. But we still appreciate you anyways. Once again, as what Tim had already said, like and subscribe. Please let us know that you're here with us. You rocking with us. And thank you so much, guys. And on that note, Tim, deuces. We'll see you guys next week.